rolling around the internet, and one of the podcasters I listened to was doing a debate with Pinecreek Politics, which is this guy right here. Clearly, this is Vaush, as we probably are all aware. This is Pinecreek Politics, and I found this man to be incredibly frustrating to listen to. And because I found it frustrating in a constructive manner, it gave me the ability to vent out things that I think are important to say and important to make sure that people understand. So, what I want to do is I want to go through this review of a review, essentially, and comment on what I think this guy here is doing as a human being and as a conservative. My understanding that he is Canadian, who has lived in the U.S. for like 20 some odd years or so, and recently became a citizen. And he's listening to Vaush for the first time in this particular part. Now let me double check here that my desktop audio is being picked up by OBS, since everything seems to be fucked. Okay, that didn't work. That work?
Prevent fashion.
Okay, cool.
That.
So, we have ourselves Pinecreek Politics. Doug is his name. He's reviewing a video that Vaush did, and I didn't think the first few minutes of this were that important to go over, so I wanted to start basically from this timestamp. And we'll listen and comment and do some analysis and whatnot as we go through. So let's get to it.
Then I think this whole thing of deplatforming people, I think you have to get thrown in the garbage. If you agree with that premise.
Say, for example, prevent fascist candidates from running for office or lock people up on sedition charges if they attempt to initiate a coup.
So, a little bit of background. Vaush, in this particular instance, is talking about how it might be in the interest of democracy that we do not allow people to act in undemocratic ways in a democratic society. That's all he's saying. That's the background. Here we go. He's going to comment about the smugness of Vaush.
Look at that smug. I gotta see that smug face again.
You could say, for example, prevent fascist candidates from running for office or lock people up on sedition charges if they attempt to initiate a coup.
Yeah, right there. He's definitely talking about January 6th.
Yeah.
I'll say this again. I've said it many times, that the attempted coup was nothing in comparison. Listen to my words carefully, okay? In comparison to the major historical events in the United States' history.
In the history of the United States, let's think about this for a second. In the history of the United States, when was there a more concentrated attack on the actual capital of the United States? The War of 1812, I think, is the only one I can think of, right? Right? Like, I'm going to double check. Washington, D.C. in the American Civil War. Okay. Lincoln assassination. Defense. At the beginning of the war, Washington's only defense was one old fort, Fort Washington, and the Union soldiers themselves. McClellan began laying out lines for a complete ring of entrenchments and fortifications that covered 33 miles of land. He built enclosed forts on high hills. The capital's defenses, for the most part, deterred the Confederate army from attacking. One notable exception was the Battle of Fort Stevens, which Union troops repelled soldiers under the command of Confederate Lieutenant General Jubal Early. The battle was the first time since the War of 1812 that a U.S. president came under fire and enemy in wartime, when Lincoln visited the fort to observe the fighting. Okay, so it was the Battle of Fort Stevens, right? So we've got War of 1812, where I think British led Canadian troops. Was it correct? Yeah, British North America attacked and burned down the White House, whatever. So the Battle of Fort Stevens. Let's see. The battle itself. At the time of Wright's command was in Washington. Around 3 p.m., the bulk of the Confederates commenced skirmishing, probing the defense, manned by Hardin, line of skirmishers, President Lincoln, and some officers rode out to observe the attack, briefly under fire that wounded a Union surgeon standing next to Lincoln, and then the Union forces pushed them back. Corps member recalled, "We marched in the line of battle into a peach orchard in front of Fort Stevens. Here the fight began. For a short time, it was warm work, but as the president and many ladies were looking at us, every man tried to do his best. Without our help, the small force in the forts would have been overpowered. Early should have attacked earlier in the morning, but Early was late." And remember, Early was the Confederate general who was doing this. There were 300 casualties, or almost 400 casualties on the Union side, and almost between 400 and 500 on the Confederate side. Okay, and Fort Stevens is, as we will note by this map here with a dot, it looks like next to up here. So this would be Fort Stevens, right? Right there, up in Brightwood. This is Washington, D.C. We can go to Google Maps. So this is D.C., right? And then that would be Brightwood, right? So we've got the Capitol down here. And then we can actually do a measured distance, right? From there to there in a straight line, 5 miles away. So 5 miles away from the Capitol, there was a brief skirmish that drove the Confederates away, and that was the only time in United States history, that besides the War of 1812, that the Capitol was threatened, right? Okay, just making sure we understand where we're at here, because lest we forget, and do not forget this, January 6th was an insurrection attempt by fascist leaders of the Republican Party, including the President of the United States, to attempt to overthrow the government and kill members of the opposing party and the vice president, basically anyone who stood in the way of the Republicans and Donald Trump from remaining in power. The only reason they did not succeed was because some people weren't on board. The senators were able to get away. The incompetence of Trump and his cronies and the right wing in general. And, oh God, it hurts to say this, the police doing their job. I know. You should have people defending a Capitol in the event of an insurrection. That's good. I'm not saying it's not. I just was making a joke. So let us not forget that for the first time in American history, a sitting president led an insurrection against the peaceable transition of power because he didn't like the results and he wanted to stay in power. That's what we're dealing with, folks.
I mean, even if the coup was successful, what would have happened? Nothing.
Wrong. If the coup was successful, as I just said, there would have been senators, House representatives, and the vice president all dead. That crowd was chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." If they had found Mike Pence, he would be hanging from the neck until dead. I don't like Mike Pence. Fucking hate the guy. Don't think he deserves to die. Just me. Especially doesn't deserve to die when all that especially doesn't deserve to die when all that he was trying to do was continue the democratic process. Now, Mike Pence has done plenty of undemocratic things, but his service on January 6th, specifically the service of January 6th, and allowing the transition of power and the certification of the election, that's what he should have done. That's what he was supposed to do, and he was upholding the oath and all of that shit. So once again, Doug, what would have happened is we would have had death. We would have had decapitation of political opponents to the right wing in this country and to the rule and power of Donald Trump.
What do you mean, Doug? What do you mean nothing? Because of the way the Constitution is set up,
it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. What happened after that? What happened after that crowd killed a bunch of politicians and took over the Capitol with the sitting president there? I don't know. I don't fucking know. I'm not a mind reader. I'm not psychic. I don't have a ability to look into the other side of history and bring a timeline that didn't happen into existence and examine it. I don't know. But what I do know is that we came damn close to something horrific, and we got by the skin of our teeth because we're allowing undemocratic speech and activities in this country to proceed as if they are democratic when they're not. Fascists don't do democracy.
Accomplished was a delay in Biden coming in. I dare anyone to disagree with that.
I motherfucker listened to the last 5 minutes of what I've just said.
I mean, you got all these doomsday scenarios in people's minds, some people's minds of, oh, if things would have gone a little differently, I mean, the coup would have we would have modern day Hitlers and a high Trump.
Weird. Just decided to Google Nazis in Jan 6th. Secret Service knew of the neo-Nazi threat in January 6th. There's a fucking email from them about it. Nazi sympathizer and army reservist who stormed the Capitol. No, look, he's even got the fucking stash. Was the Confederate flag. There you go. How you like that? You like Nazis? You guys remember this? You remember being there? Remember watching this on the news as people climbed through barricades, brought flags of treasonous activity into the country's capital? I'll give you a quick moment here. Why do you think the person who made this, okay, is associating Donald Trump with Braveheart which was, in case you are not, just in case you don't remember, was a Mel Gibson. It's Mel Gibson, and what does Mel Gibson? A timeline of Mel Gibson's anti-Semitism. Huh. Okay, so the correlation between Trump and Mel Gibson via Braveheart here is there. There's a reference being used there. Okay, why those letters? Why that font? Why that font? I wonder. I wonder why that font. Hmm. 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 I wonder.
Nazism in the United. No.
You would actually be doing this in a pro free speech sense, because if those people ever got power, they would remove free speech. We're not talking about the abstract of like running down to everyone's homes and like arresting them for the stuff they say. We're talking about denying them the political power they would use to destroy free speech as a concept.
Yeah, okay, so let me see if I can steelman him here. It's okay to silence certain people because certain people will want to destroy free speech. So by removing their free speech, you can save free speech. That's what.
That is what he's getting at in a manner of speaking, yes. I believe what Vaush is saying here is that by prosecuting people who threaten democracy and remove them and their power, you help maintain democracy. Seems like a good thing to me. I like democracy. I like being able to vote. I like being able to have a say in things.
What he's saying, right?
Oh, also, I have raised this issue to this man in his comment section already about his fucking ghastly audio. While I am not exactly sure if mine is tuned properly, I think it is. His is like bass boosted. Like, if I was to be him, it would be like, "Oh, hi guys, how are you doing? I'm walking around like this." Anyways,
And I say, instead of destroying their free speech, put their free speech that might destroy free speech into the arena of ideas of free speech and let the winner win. And
yes, because that works so well when the other side plays fair. Except that when you're dealing with people who don't believe in free speech, when you're dealing with people who want to commit genocide, who want to kill people that they don't believe in, that they don't agree with, sorry, not believe in, that doesn't work because they're just going to use a rock. They're just going to smash someone's head in. They're just going to put a bullet through their brain. They're just going to gas them.
And I'm saying the winner will be free speech and that these Nazis will not be in power.
That had such a good, that was so well thought out and said by him. Man, I think he would really do to learn a great deal about the Weimar Republic and the rise of fascism in post World War I Germany.
Because even the far right, well, I shouldn't say even, the far right values the Constitution of the United States. Some
No, they
might
don't.
say more.
No, they don't. They're attempting to undermine it at every possible moment. The Supreme Court has been packed with far right conservative justices who do not adhere to any jurisprudence. It boggles my mind to think that this guy is so naive as to not understand this. And based on what I watched with another conversation, I'm beginning to think that he's not naive. I think that he is actively attempting to cover for people. I don't think he's naive. I think he's dumb, but I don't think he's stupid. I think he is actually attempting to, kind of cover some stuff that he thinks is cool but doesn't want to say it out loud.
More so
He wants to be kind of a, free speech guy, whatever.
than the far left.
Is that better? That's better. Okay, we'll watch like that.
So in order for this doomsday scenario to take place, you would have to tear up the Constitution. Am I wrong?
No, not entirely. Yes, you would have to tear up the Constitution, but that wouldn't necessarily be a problem for them. They would be able to adhere to some sort of just like bullshit panic narrative, or put in some sort of judicial theory, kind of similar to the, what is it, Moore v. Harper stuff coming down in the Supreme Court right now, that could take away the ability to allow states to determine their own districts or something like that, and just basically remove democracy by gerrymandering the entire country into whatever shape the Republicans want. Yeah, you don't need to be able to have you don't need to adhere to a constitution when you use a leg of the government to shoot itself, or to like kick the other two out from underneath of it.
The whole idea of
like, you think the fucking Nazis in fucking Germany adhered to the pre-Nazi constitution or whatever they had of Germany or the Weimar Republic? Nah, dude. Once they got in power, they started just complete executive control. That's what they want. They want complete hierarchy. Because Republicans are bottom bitches that love to be fucked by whoever they think is superior.
checks and balances, separation of powers, 3 branches of government. To go
to a
dictatorship, you'd have to rip up the Constitution at that point.
Yeah, it's what they want to do.
Free speech absolutism is self-defeating if it does defeat itself, which it seems to. It's kind of the same how, like, if you want to promote a society where it's easy for people to drive, you need to set rules for driving, right? Like, the only reason people drive all the time over here in America is because we have roads, stop signs, traffic lights. If you had a system where there was no, where there were no rules in place at all for any kind of like driving limitations, none whatsoever, then
yeah, okay, I agree. This is a great point. You got to have limitations, but I think this is why I say freer speech is a better.
So again, if he agrees that you should have limitations, then one of those limitations should be that you cannot act in undemocratic ways and expect to be not affected by the consequences. And if those consequences happen to be legal, in order to protect democracy, I don't see a problem with that. Fuck.
Phrase than free speech. Yeah, and there's limitations to free speech as well.
You would
But there's a difference between these limitations and telling, oh, if you drive a green Ford pickup truck, you're not allowed to drive at all.
No, that's a bad analogy, and you know it is. You know that's a bad analogy. A better analogy is you are not allowed to drive if you make it a duty to drive a bulldozer and remove the road as you go along. That's the better analogy. It's not about how you drive, as long as you're adhering to the rules of driving. If you're actively being destructive to the surface of an infrastructure upon which you drive, or other people as drivers, that is the problem. We already have a lot of laws for this. In keeping with your driving analogy, you can't just drive someone else off the road, aka murder. Or you can't, you can't do that shit. We accept rules for driving in this scenario, but we wouldn't accept someone destroying the road people drive on.
And this is the fear, I think, from people like Vaush, is certain people, no, you got to not even let them drive. Because if we get them on the road, then everybody will want a green Ford truck. I mean, they're just so persuasive. I mean,
No, it's because, again, your analogy sucks. It's not about what you drive. It's if you're destroying the foundations of how we drive, of how we talk, of how we express ourselves. If you are attempting to repress and force people to not be able to express themselves, whether that is democratically, whether that is with who they love, with who they fuck, with how they talk. That's not okay. People that attempt to suppress and control shouldn't be allowed to inflict that on other people.
They might get 51% of the public who want green Ford trucks, and we can't have that because green Ford trucks will lead to wars.
You would disincentivize.
What the shit? Sorry, guys. Something wacky is happening on my audio.
Driving a little bit.
Okay. That's better.
It's better for the ability to drive that there were rules on driving. Now,
wait, no, it's still coming through my speakers. What the shit is going on? What the hell is happening to my computer? One sec.
of like what limitations on free speech are good, you know,
1 second, guys. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
is it good that you can be arrested for screaming fire or bomb in an airport or whatever? That's really complicated.
Yes.
But I want to scale it
I
back.
agree, it's complicated.
Okay, so I apologize if there's an audio issue for some reason. My computer has decided to output to both my headphones and my speakers at the same time. I don't know what's going on. Just going to turn off the speakers and hope that this resolves itself. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I'll fix it later.
Bomb in an airport or whatever. That's really complicated.
Yes.
But I want to scale it back
it's complicated.
a little bit because there's one other concern that I want to bring up, you know, kind of like as a framework. Why do right-wingers only remind us that free speech exists when they're defending people they claim not to agree with on the right?
Okay, I lean right, and I defend people that I disagree with all the time to say what they say. In fact, I've gotten in trouble for saying that street preachers should be allowed to look homosexuals in the eyes and say they're going to hell. A lot of people dislike it when I say that. But then, on the same token, I say, let me give you reasons why you shouldn't even believe hell exists. I mean, would you be at all offended if I looked someone in the eye and said, hey, if you live this way, you're going to go to some Harry Potter evil place? I mean, people are just going to laugh at you, right?
Yes, of course. The classic, but it's a fiction. Of course it's a fiction. Obviously, religion is fictional. You've cleared the lowest hurdle in the game, my dude. However, while I'm not going to go around and tell street preachers that they can't street preach, I will go and yell at them back. I do it fairly regularly around here in Seattle. When I'm out and about, I will go yell at street preachers because if they're yelling, I want to yell. Fuck yeah. America. But at the same time, it doesn't carry the same cultural impact. So what I think is that the street preachers should understand that what they're doing can be harmful, even if that harm should... Oh, for fuck's sake, what the god hell is going on with my computer? Something is really fucked up. Why is it doing... Sorry, guys. Sorry. My computer is just fritzing out and it's bothering me because I can't really focus on things when things are going bad. Where was I at? Oh, right. The street preacher, they can actually do harm to someone, and they should at least understand that they could be inadvertently causing harm when they're doing that. And I think one of the big reasons that a lot of street preachers take the tactics that they do is either out of maliciousness, that they're trying to scare the people not that are being targeted by their speech, but rather the people around. They're like, when you're doing a debate, you're not always going to be able to fucking change the other person's mind. You're probably never going to be able to do that, right? But what you do is you talk to the audience, and that's what they're doing. They're talking to the broader audience. Their target, like a street preacher might target a trans person and say they're going to hell. But what they won't do is think that they can actually make that trans person come to Jesus. What they're doing is attempting to tell all the other people around them that they think this is degenerate and they want to oppress this person in some way because of their religion. And I don't like that, man. But I also, in this case, think that what you should do is go yell at some street preachers. That's right. I am calling you. Go yell at some street preachers.
Well, that's fiction. Well, that's how you should view this whole biblical idea of hell. It's fiction.
And you don't have to yell constructive things. You can just go up and yell nonsense at them. You could literally just, anytime they say Jesus, yell the word hot dog over top of it. It'll be fine. Like, just being an obstructionary force to their oppression is enough. At least in most cases. If you see someone being violent, maybe step in if you can. It's not like your obligation. If you feel like it, call the cops or whatever. I'm not gonna get too heavy into that because that is all individual basis, and use your intelligent brain. You've got a brilliant brain. It's the best brain. Okay? You all, everyone who listens to Jake the Fake Jake has the best brain. They're the smartest, most intelligent people on the planet. I love every one of them. Okay? Anyway, jokes aside, let's move on.
So don't worry about it. But people should still have the right to preach this fiction if they want.
You're doing it right now.
I may not agree with what ye said yesterday, but free speech exists. Well, thank you for your contribution to the discourse. Nobody was ever questioning whether or not...
Excuse me, but says a lot of people dislike harassment. Yeah, but harassment is in the eye of the beholder.
No, I mean, not really, no. And he's about to use a very dumb analogy for harassment, and I'll tell you right up front, both sides of what he's about to do are harassment. He's just a white guy.
That's true.
He's just an old white guy.
Like, for example, imagine, I think, excuse me, but's female. It looks like it's female. So imagine, let's put this in terms of harassment to females. Imagine a fat, ugly man comes up to a woman and says something like, hey, sexy babe, nice legs, or whatever, and then constantly keep saying that. That's harassment, right?
Correct.
Now imagine the exact same words said by Brad Pitt to a woman. Hey, sexy babe, those are nice legs. It's
also harassment.
At least for most women.
No. Fuck you, Doug. It is harassment. It is. Both situations are identical. They are both harassment. The perceived difference by somebody being attractive or not has nothing to do with the actual harm being done in this case. Whether or not somebody in the moment understands that harm is different.
Oh, Brad Pitt saying it? Now it's fun. Now I like it. So harassment is in the eye of the beholder. So if you can change
it's not.
yourself.
Is rape in the eye of the beholder then? If Brad Pitt came up and fucked me in the ass, and then if later on that day you came up and fucked me in the ass, is one okay because Brad Pitt's hot? Or are they both rape because I don't want to be fucked in the ass?
First, getting back to, let's say, the gays in hell. If I'm a gay man and someone says, hey, and I live like a gay man, as all gay men should, and
gay men should live how they want to live. If they wish to live as a gay man, they should live as a gay man. Live your best life, folks.
Street preacher comes up to me and says, "You're going to hell for the way you're living." I'll say, "Okay. How are you doing today? Nice weather we're having, right?" So the exact same words, the exact same actions, depending on the receiver, can be viewed as harassment or not. So I'm saying, make yourself stronger. So very few things are harassing to you. Now, definitely physical, like if someone starts taking bats and beating you, that's different. But if it's just words, free speech.
God damn it! I hate this. I hate this argument so much. Oh, it's such an old fashioned piece of garbage argument, though. Oh, sticks and stones can break my bones, so words can never hurt me. It's just that. It's just the idea that words hold no power, and yet for some reason, if words don't hold power, why would you want to protect them? If anyone can say anything and there's no harm being done by this speech, why should it be protected? Now, I don't fucking think that. I think that that's a pretty good idea for like countering his argument here, because like he's just saying be stronger about it. Okay, okay, be stronger when the fascist right takes your ability to be an atheist away. Just be stronger in your non-belief and go to church. Why do you care? When the fascist right comes and silences your ability to be gay, oh, why do you care? Just be stronger. Fuck yourself at home. It'll be fine. Shove a broom up your ass or something. It's dumb. It's dumb.
You can become stronger. It takes practice. Age does it a lot. All you have to do is just...
No, it doesn't. Part of the reason that I have been not streaming as much as I want to is because my mental health has been absolutely garbage. And it is only in the past 6 years that I have even begun to plumb the depths of why my brain is the way it is. And it's only within these last 6 years that there has been any amount of crumbling upon my own internal strength. And age has not helped me in this matter. In fact, age is a primary reason of my own mental issues. Lest we get into it, I don't really feel like getting into my medical history with y'all right now. Maybe later, call me up and ask me about it. I'll talk to you guys about it. Anyways, right now, this guy is frustrating me all hell out of me.
Live long enough to live to be old, and you start to become numb to harassment.
Incorrect.
Get a legal right to say that stuff. Why this? See, I've consumed conservative content for a long time. I don't think I've ever seen Kevin Sorbo, or in fact any conservative that I can think of, saying, you may not agree with what Ilhan Omar said the other day, but she does have the right to say it. That's how free speech works.
This is true. I have not either. I can also back this up from Vaush's perspective. I have never seen a conservative applaud the ability of a left-leaning person to speech.
Have you ever heard that? Yeah, I understand the point he's making. That's a good point. It's a valid point. It's sort of like he's saying it's being used as an excuse to...
Yeah, it's weird that they only ever seem to back up the ability of Nazis to converse and talk about their issues and their points. Weird that it seems to be the far right wing that gets all the leniency.
Excuse people. But I think if you were to ask these people, do they have the right to say this in the United States? They would answer yes. Because I think a lot of the people that Vaush is talking about do value the Constitution. So just ask them that.
Really? Yeah, I'm sure if I asked Nick Fuentes whether or not I deserve the ability to talk, as someone who is rainbow affiliated, I'm sure that he would say I have the freedom to do whatever I want, clearly.
Next time.
Or even an atheist. Nick Fuentes would tell this motherfucker to die because he's not a Christian.
Or ask them, why do you bring it up now and not before or in other occasions?
I may not agree with what Biden said the other day in his speech, his Dark Brandon speech, but he does have the right to say it. That's how free speech works. You ever heard that? No, I haven't either. I may not agree with what AOC said the other day, but so why for ye?
Yeah, why is
a
it
lot
for
of
you?
conservatives say that when it comes to porn. Yes, I'm against porn, but I respect the freedom of expression. I've actually heard some conservatives say that. Some Christian evangelicals say that.
Why do they say this so much for Alex Jones? Or Nick Fuentes? They said it for Richard Spencer. What about Milo Yiannopoulos?
Yeah. I think a lot of things that Alex Jones said, I think he has the right to say it. But it hurts
Weird how he immediately says that about him.
people, Doug.
Because they're defending it. Remember what I said before? Invoking free speech is a defense. We're not talking about an actual legal argument. Kevin Sorbo's not in a courtroom reminding people of an actual explicit legal right. He's defending it in the only way he can, by using the free speech argument. But it is a defense, a choice.
Yeah, one little piece of hypocrisy here is in a certain setting like college campuses, which tend to be full of young people. Young people tend to vote Democrat, they tend to lean left, and they definitely shut down free speech when it's something they don't want to hear.
Are you talking about like Milo Yiannopoulos, who proceeded to attempt to come to a college campus with the explicit intent of outing and doxing a trans person in the audience, and in response to that claim that he was going to do, which he had done previously, by the way, he had already doxed and outed people who were gay or who were trans in the audience. Are you saying that he should have been allowed to cause that level of harm, or are you going to say that the student body that makes up the college campus has no authority on allowing who they will allow into their college to spread ideas? Because there's no reason why Milo couldn't just go down the street into a park and do his talk, or rent out another building nearby and do his talk, or do it online and do his talk. No one was removing his free speech. A democratically aligned group of people, a group of people who rose up in defense of somebody who was going to be outed and have material harm done to them. Seems like a pretty fair thing to do, in my opinion.
Right? That's very fair to say. Like, that's dangerous.
No, it's not.
That might lead to Nazism, I think.
Choice taken to positively frame
Defending trans people leads to Nazism? Weird how he thinks that.
That content, that delusional bipolar meltdown of Yeez. They don't say it about other people because they aren't interested in defending other people.
Yeah, Shadex Gaming, I agree. Some of the things Alex Jones said that ended up terrorizing parents of murdered children, like he lost that lawsuit, right? So in the court of law, looked at all the evidence.
They're interested in defending Nazis. And so they will invoke the defenses they're capable of for Nazis without flagrantly tripping the
You know what's interesting? I sometimes do this with the topic of racism, but I'll do it here. And I wonder how Vaush would handle a question like this if he were here. Why is Nazism bad?
I can answer that. I can answer that real fucking easy. Nazism is bad. It's because it oppresses other people. Because it is an innately hierarchical and oppressive system that requires hated minorities to be persecuted and prosecuted in their systems. It leads to genocide because in the Nazis' eye, anyone who is degenerate should not be allowed to live in their society.
Can you articulate it for me?
Done.
In fact, these are kind of, I know I hate philosophy, but
of course he does. Of course he hates philosophy. Because why would he appreciate a nuanced breakdown of anything to do with the world when it is so much easier to rely on bullshit simple answers and conservative ideas that have been holding humanity back for thousands of years?
Nazism. What is it exactly? It is a far-right totalitarian political ideology and practices associated with Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. It was frequently referred to as Hitlerism. The later related term neo-Nazism is applied to far-right groups. Nazism is a form of fascism. Okay, why is fascism bad? With disdain for liberal democracy. Okay, so it's bad because it has disdain for liberal democracy and the parliamentary system.
Yes.
It incorporates a dictatorship. Why is dictatorship bad?
Are you really asking that question? Are you so innately dumb that you have no concept, or are you so innately dishonest that you are going to pertain to feign ignorance as to why a dictatorship is inherently bad?
Fervent anti-Semitism. Oh, that's okay. Well, one could even ask that. Why is anti-Semitism bad? And it gets to, if you keep peeling that onion, it will come down to hurting people, right? It's bad because it hurts people. But then the question comes, how is it hurting people?
Usually through genocide.
Their emotions and their psyche, I think that has to be separated from hurting them bodily, even though their psyche is part of their body.
Yeah, see, this is the same fucking conservative bullshit that continually froths back up over and over and over and over again. Conservatives have this disconnect that, like, anything that can be done to the mind is okay, but if it hurts the body, man, even, like, it doesn't even, like, this guy is so, it seems like he's a dualist, but he can't be because he's an atheist, right? He seems to think that, like, the mind and body are different. No, it's a part whole. You can't hurt people with words and expect them not to react bodily, because words do things to the brain, and the brain is in your body.
But I think you have to make a distinction there because of what I said earlier, that two people can hear the exact same thing and one be offended and the other person not be offended. So in my opinion...
But in your previous example, as I reiterate again, both are harassment. Just because somebody is not in the moment hurt by it does not mean that they will understand later that that was a bad thing. And that can actually lead to more harm on their person.
It comes to the responsibility of the person to get tougher, get stronger. Because one can actually...
Also, you may notice, this guy continually refers to strength as an inherent good value. He seems to think that there is no value in allowing yourself vulnerability. Vulnerability allows for an incredibly deep connection between people. And that can be incredibly useful, especially interpersonally. Some of my best friends are my best friends because they confide in me and I confide in them, and we are allowed to be open, honest, and vulnerable with each other. That's not a bad thing. That's part of a human connection. It's part of being alive and being a human, is that vulnerability and connection that we can gain to other members of our species. And even members of our that aren't of our species. People can have incredibly deep bonds with their pets. And these bonds are formed, at least in my experience, and I think art showcases this fairly well, that vulnerability can be a beneficial thing to your life. And this ability to embrace vulnerability is empathy. You're allowed to have empathy for another thing. Constantly thinking that you have to become stronger and more resilient to make it through all the tough times. Or maybe you should open up to other people, hear what they have to say, grow as a human being, and together as a unity, as a group, as a collective society, we can overcome the problems that we face and progress into the new moment of our lives and the new eras that we would like to usher in.
Imagine a dictatorship that's all benevolent, that's all good. Like, this is what Christians, how they view God, right? God is the perfect dictator. Well, it doesn't take much of imagination to imagine a human being being a dictator and being like as close to perfect as benevolent as one can be.
No, I don't think that anyone could actually do that, because any individual person is going to be subject to their biases that they have from society, from how they were raised, from what they've learned, everything. No person is going to be perfect. And what you are suggesting is a more perfect being. And I don't think you can reach that, at least not currently. Maybe in the future, a human will arise that has experience from every culture and every perspective and is able to view everything from every angle and be kind of like a panopticon of goodness and lead humanity forward, but it's probably unlikely.
Helping the poor, the sick, the homeless, whatever. So you just can't say, well, being a dictator is bad. Being anti-democracy is bad.
Anti-democracy is bad. Again, look at what he just said. This guy has been forcing himself out as a moderate this entire time. Kind of a measured response person who's just asking questions, but he just gave it away.
As benevolent as one can be.
He just gives it away right here.
The sick, the homeless, whatever. So you just can't say, well, being a dictator is bad. Sick, the homeless, whatever. So you just can't say, well, being a dictator is bad. Being anti-democracy is bad.
You can't just say being a dictator or being anti-democracy is bad. I don't know about you, but I can't imagine someone who lives in China or India or Russia or Ethiopia, South Sudan, Chad, Italy, the Netherlands. I can't imagine a person from anywhere around the globe would be very happy if an American came by and was like, oh, hey, I'm going to fix your life for you now because I'm your dictator, because I'm good. I think instead, we should grow society into being a better unifying group, allowing connection and understanding through people, and allowing change to happen from the bottom up rather than top down. This is because, well, I'm a fucking, like, libertarian, socialist, anarchic, syndicalist, communist lefty. Like, when it comes right down to it, growing communities, forming communities and groups of communities where we understand and help each other is, I think, the best way for us to move forward in the world and eventually become a good, just, and fair society.
But in general, power tends to not be that way, right? And most of us here in the United States lean towards democracy is better than dictatorship.
Pro-Nazi line. Yeah, here's thank you for linking this. I think this is fantastic. This is a candidate running against Ilhan Omar, right? Yeah, here we go. Shukri Abdirahman, shoe for Congress over here. Not that shoe, the other one. Great person, except that actually they're terrible in every way. Here's a tweet. We can no longer get rid of tyranny by the ballots. It's only by bullets now.
Ooh.
This is in response to a Twitter file thread in which Matt Taibbi says there was no government interference in Twitter's censorship of the Hunter Biden story. And the only thing that the Joe Biden private DNC campaign group did was ask that they remove revenge porn of Hunter Biden.
Now, this, I don't know, what do you guys think about this? Does this cross the line of free speech? We can no longer get rid of tyranny by the ballots. It's only by bullets now. Now, there's no specific call for certain people to be killed. But this is walking the line, right? Or do you guys think it's crossed it?
In return to the in response to the information that Joe Biden's administration, not administration, wasn't the president yet. In response to the information that Joe Biden's team requested that leaked illegal nudes of his son be taken down, an okay request as requests go. Her response is, we can no longer get rid of tyranny by the ballots. It's only by bullets now. Is this a pro or anti-free speech take? See, technically, her ability to say that is an expression of her free speech.
Yep.
But what she's really saying is, if you kind of read between the lines, or in fact, read the lines at all, or you could read...
Kurt Johnson says to my question, like, does this cross the line? Depends who says it. So you're saying if this person has power or not. If it's a high school kid who has no power, people just slough it off. But if it's a high school kid who has access to guns and is very depressed and full of anxieties, then yeah, maybe keep an eye on that kid.
What she's really saying is,
it's weird that he's capable of intersectional analysis when he wants to be.
We need to kill our political opponents. Why do we need to kill our political opponents? Well, on its own, you could say, well, killing Hitler would have been...
Yeah. So I agree with him here. That's what she's saying. She's saying we need to kill our political opponents. So in my opinion, I lean that this is crosses the line. But what if she would have said we need to punch our political opponents in the face? Because you hear this a lot from the left, punch a Nazi, right? What if she would have said that? Does that cross the line?
A political opponent, I'm sure. Well, they want to kill the Democrats because Joe Biden's team didn't want Hunter Biden's leaked nude, which is revenge porn, on Twitter. Yeah.
Vaush is making it sound like the whole Hunter Biden thing was as simple as Bill Clinton's oral sex in the White House in the 90s. It may be, but it might be more too. There might be more in that laptop than just nudes or, that type of thing.
But there wasn't. It was a fucking giant pill of nothing. Oh, God. Oh, I don't have the energy in me right now to do a full breakdown of the Hunter Biden thing. Suffice it to say, many people have done extremely good breakdowns on this. I suggest you go seek them out. I think Vaush did one. The Opening Arguments podcast did one. Those are just two off the top of my head you can go check out. But what Vaush has just said here is the more important thing. Hunter Biden was like head of or like a member of a board because he was a Biden. It was just classic little bit of nepotism. It happens all the time. Is it great? No. Is it going to go away anytime soon? No. Is it that big of a deal? Not even a little. If nothing had happened in Ukraine, this would have blown over and not really been a big issue. The bigger issue here is that Hunter Biden, who struggles with addiction and is not in a political seat of power, nor has ever been in a political seat of power, had revenge porn leaked. If this was like can't remember her name, Marjorie Taylor Greene. If this had been a Marjorie Taylor Greene laptop and her nudes had been leaked, and the reason that that laptop was in question is because she had been sitting on a board, this would have been the biggest thing the right blew up about in so long. And it would have been all about like pornography and about degenerates and how the people who leaked it are trying to discredit her by showing that like she has a body. It's oh god, it just is so stupid. And all they've really done with this is shown that Hunter Biden has a massive cock and loves drugs. Fuck yeah, dude.
Which was it? The New York Times had some type of blurb on that Twitter took down, and then Twitter even admitted that they made a mistake. When Twitter pre-Elon admits that they made a mistake on free speech, you know they made a big mistake.
I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Time to kill our opponents. My personal opinion is that a world where people can't run for government while openly promoting the murder of their liberal political opponents for no reason at all is actually a freer world than one where they are able to.
But what if your political opponents are Nazis? Is it okay to take them out then?
No, they shouldn't be allowed to. You're missing the point. The point is not that we should kill all Nazis. Though, if you happen to kill a Nazi in defensive violence, if they're coming at you, if you're defending yourself, I'm pretty unchuffed about Nazis dying. The point Vaush is making is that people who hold undemocratic power should not be allowed to hold that power politically. I don't think Vaush... I'm not going to put words in his mouth. I would not go around killing people who were Nazis just because they were Nazis. I would kill a Nazi if they were trying to harm me. I will disenfranchise a Nazi from political power and political process and societal power because they are attempting to disenfranchise that same power for other people. It is not an aggressive action on my part. It is in fact defensive because they are the ones who are attempting to remove the power from other people.
Warlords thing, right? You know, if you give freedoms out willy-nilly to the point where you essentially have no government involvement in anything at all, you just get like ANCAP feudalism land. You just get Mad Max world. You know, obviously we scale it back a bit. Okay, well actually you can't.
I don't know. I'm thinking like the United States became a country in 1767.
No, 1776, 1782 is when it was actually
1787. Like, what was it like in the early 1800s in the United States? Was it Mad Max? The government was there, but nowhere as controlling as now.
Oh boy. So, he literally shows his ignorance of American history here. For a reference on how bad the early American government was, you should look into the Whiskey Rebellion. This was Alexander Hamilton the Federalists attempting to cover the debts that America had incurred on revolution and attempting to pay them back by taxing luxuries, in this case whiskey. However, the problem is that whiskey was a essentially a form of money in the west side of America, and this is like Illinois is the furthest west people would have been going at this point. It would have been very Midwest Rust Belt, what we consider now. These people were using whiskey as a currency, not just to drink, because this is the type of society that was out there. It was very low in money and did not have a very good way of producing that money. So the Federalists were attempting to leverage these federal taxes on luxuries, and a bunch of people stood up and said that they weren't going to accept that. And this rebellion arose. There was a couple of small skirmishes and battles, and it eventually got like removed a bit. But yeah, the early American history in the late 18th century was not a pretty one. And especially in the territories, you're looking at American imperialism with the with people like genociding Native Americans and forcibly removing them. I mean, fucking the Trail of Tears is a thing. Do you remember that? Do you remember how that was kind of like Mad Maxy and the fact that we were just like, hey, get the fuck out? And then when like I think it was Andrew Jackson got his feathers in a ruffle, sent the army to like shoot people until they started moving. Look into Mormon history as the Mormons moved west into Utah. They committed small genocides all over the place. They were actively attacking people who had already been living there just because they were trying to set up their like ideal towns, and they set up their like towns with completely fake money. And like American history is fraught with this level of like libertarian free market nonsense that has led to problem after problem after problem after problem, all because like yeah, ignorance.
I guess maybe it was definitely the Wild West.
The idea of the Wild West is actually very overblown. That period of time was very small. The expansion was actually much more like quote unquote civilized than it was actually made out to be. The actual problems in there were not like bandits robbing banks and like that happened a little bit, but it's nowhere near as big as like people think it was. It was a much more broad spectrum issue with oppression and like removal of native peoples and just fucking like religious overstepping, and then you get into the industrialization of America and the robber barons and the unionization and the massacres and genocides of unionization and of minorities as being used as essentially slave labor on the railroads.
But even in the Wild West, they had rules, they had law. You go, no illegal activity in my town.
Can't pee on other people. That's bad. You shouldn't do that. Don't murder, don't rape. You scale it back and eventually you have something approximating a functioning society. We don't know exactly where the line is. We don't know where it should be, but we know that a line somewhere is probably good for everyone. And in my opinion, you know, part of a good line is one where there are social consequences to saying this.
I agree. 100%.
Is one where...
Yeah, and that I agree with. There should be social consequences. But there shouldn't be physical, bodily consequences.
Again, his bullshit demarcation between the two is whatever. I don't think that someone who calls for the killing of their political opponent should be allowed to run for any office. I just don't. Ban. Done.
What should the social consequences be? I don't know. I don't like you very much. Or maybe just a whole bunch of people saying, hey, you're wrong and here's why.
Again, but the problem is that when you have a critical mass of people, even just a minority of people, that are extremely vocal and outraged about this sort of thing. But on the side of the person calling for that, you build up something that's been in the public conscious a lot recently is stochastic terrorism. This is the going out and, like, when we had Nancy Pelosi's assassination attempt recently, or the continued destruction and terrorist attacks on the power grid in Atlanta and in Tacoma. Like, it's just getting worse, guys. It's just getting worse.
There are social
To
consequences.
me, that's the best social consequence. People disagreeing with you and trying to take something you value and show you that maybe that's not the best way to go about it.
Consequences to saying what Yi said is one where we recognize that implicit defenses of Nazi breakdowns are implicit defenses of Nazi breakdowns. That this is
Nazi breakdowns. How does he get to Nazism from that?
Oh boy. You know what? Let's hear what he has to say, because I don't want to preempt what he's going to say. And I could use a break from talking for a second.
isn't a statement that he would say about anyone else, even though it is empirically as true with Yi as it is with literally any person he's ever slandered in his entire career as being a retard online. Y'all get me, don't you? I'm going to keep hammering on this. People say I have censorious opinions on free speech. No, I don't. Keeping Nazis from running the government actually is a very pro-free speech position. Your defense is a free speech.
Okay, but the question is, how do you keep Nazis from running the government?
By not allowing them positions of political power. The social consequence here would be when you call for the death of your political opponents, you can't run. You're out. Bye. I'll cash you outside and we can yell at each other.
I think his solution is don't let them speak. I remember a long time ago watching Penn Jillette Sunday.
You know, it's pretty funny that Doug says that, and yet Vaush's entire political career was basically started when he was doing nothing but debating neo-Nazis. Weird that someone who would debate neo-Nazis and who would have open and honest discussions with them would be against the speech. It's almost like Doug either doesn't know what he's talking about or once again is trying to cover up for a value that he actually holds by being disingenuous about it.
What is Sunday School something podcast? And he said, don't you want to know who these people are? Instead of forcing them in the underground where they're in their dirty basements talking about how they may want to overthrow the government, don't you want them out in the open so everybody can see them? Keep tabs on them? It's like the high school mass shooter.
Because that worked so well for post-World War I Weimar Republic in Germany.
Who doesn't talk to anyone, doesn't say anything. He's just quiet to himself, and then one day wakes up and kills hundreds of kids in the school. Wouldn't you want him to say, hey, everyone, I'm having these thoughts about killing everyone in the school? You want him to say this so you can keep an eye on him so he doesn't do that. In the same way, you want Nazis to say their Nazi stuff so you can keep an eye on them.
Trust me, you can't stop a Nazi from saying Nazi stuff. They say it all the fucking time.
But how they're going to overthrow the Constitution of the United States, I don't know.
It's not magic. It's a piece of flawed paper that needs to be updated consistently and have a strong, robust review process in order to keep it consistent and constant and updated to today's times. Because if we didn't, black people still wouldn't be allowed to be a people. They would just be a slave. And that's fucked. Women wouldn't be allowed to vote. Landowners wouldn't be allowed to vote. Oh, sorry. People who didn't own land would not be allowed to vote if we held to the original Constitution.
valid if they lead to a scenario in which all free speech is abolished. And likewise, these people don't give a shit about free speech. Like, at all. Not even remotely. They cheered when Donald Trump smeared the media and tried to open up libel and slander laws so that he could, with his administration and government power, sue them for reporting accurately on the stuff that he did.
Keep in mind, Vaush, that maybe Trump was right, at least in a few cases. That you are against people saying false things that can hurt them with their businesses, right? Or I wonder if Vaush is against all libel laws.
I'm trying. I'm trying real hard here, folks.
That's where they're at. They don't care about free speech. She certainly doesn't care about free speech. Very free, very speech. You all get me. Is there any good argument for
Excuse me, but says no, force them underground. You don't want to know who they are? You rather live in ignorance? Excuse me, but hey, excuse me, but you should come on and tell me why. I want to know. Talk to me. I actually think that people on the left, now this is going to upset some people on the left, but I actually think that people on the left tend to have a lower view of humanity than people on the right. That if you let Nazi types speak, they might influence people because they're stupid, and then before you know it, the whole world is doomed.
No, I think people get scared by the Nazi talking points. I think that people react out of self-preservation when presented with a world that the Nazis think we live in. I think that they use fear to control people. And instead of working together to overcome things, they segregate people. They break people up and force us into tinier and smaller boxes until they are easier to pack away and control.
Whereas I think people on the right who might have the view of freer speech like I do say, no, let the Nazis speak, and then let people who are against what they're saying speak, and then let them battle it in the arena of ideas. And I think democracy will win.
Insert Coconut Island here.
And this gets, if you came late, I made the claim that if the internet existed in the 30s, Hitler would never have gotten to power.
Which is bullshit, because of course he would have. They would have done the same techniques they're doing now. It's the same techniques they used back then, just updated for like the modern day, right? It's the use of fear and spreading disinformation. It's the decreditization of the media. It is the demonization of minority groups while producing falsehoods or even sometimes manipulating material conditions to create moments of high stress. I mean, for fuck's sake, look at what the Christian right is doing right now. They are continually blaming, like, when they admit that COVID happened, not all of them do, mind you, but like they're blaming it on either the Jews for trying to do population control and some blood libel bullshit, just classic, or they're blaming it on people who are, in their view, degenerates, who are trying to destabilize our country and our society with their degeneration. And it's just the same bullshit that they did in the Weimar Republic, dude. It's all the same. Oh, God, it hurts my brain hearing him talk like this. Because Doug just is so willfully ignorant on these things. And from us. And when I say willfully, what I mean is he's pretending to be ignorant. Because, again, with some of the other conversations I've watched of this guy, I don't think he is as dumb as he pretends to be. I think he just likes to hold. I think he has his ideas. He likes to hold his bucket, but he doesn't like to know that the bucket is full of Nazi water.
If like look today, look at countries that are dictatorships or lean that way in the world today. They typically are countries that don't have the internet or they limit the internet.
Yeah, it's weird that you eliminate access to information. Boy, I wonder what group in America is currently limiting access to information. You know, it's the left wing. They're banning all the books in schools. Can't believe those communists are taking out the Mein Kampf from the schools. Oh, wait, that's not happening? Oh, silly me. That's right. I forgot. It's the right wing doing that. The right wing is banning books, banning different schools of thought. The right wing is the one taking away information from people. But fuck off. Go on with your internet analogy.
Right? Jan
The right wing is trying to remove net neutrality.
Seller says the right literally hates humanity. Literally?
True!
From being a Nazi, as in locking them up just for espousing Nazi beliefs. No, I don't believe that. As much as people like to attribute like censorious or anti-free speech politics to me, I
love that word now that I've learned it. Censorious. It sounds like
Oh, that was a part you missed earlier. He didn't know what the word censorious meant. Continue.
Like some medieval word.
I do not believe in hate speech laws, and I do not believe in arresting people for the stuff they believe. I am fully okay with disallowal from running for office and disallowal from...
Oh, you know, I agree with him here. He just said that he's against hate speech or putting people in jail for that.
A Nazi, as in locking them up just for espousing Nazi beliefs. No, I don't believe that. As much as people like to attribute like censorious or anti-free speech politics to me, I do not believe in hate speech laws, and I do not believe in arresting people for the stuff they believe. I am fully okay with disallowal from running for office and disallowal from participating in public discourse if you're using...
Whoa. Not only you can't run for office, but you can't be involved in political discourse?
Yeah, that's okay.
How do you enforce that?
Oh, it'd be real easy. You can't go to city council meetings. You can't go to PTA meetings. You show up to these things, somebody recognizes you, they call the cops, you serve time for violating your fucking whatever or whatever. You do community service. It's super easy, dude. Just have a momentary moment to think. Just allow those brain cells to do a thing inside your head.
To spread hatred and to threaten violence against other people. I'm fully okay with that.
Okay, he's okay with spreading hatred.
No, he's okay with
violence?
keeping people from doing
if you're
that.
using it to spread hatred and to threaten violence against other people. I'm fully okay with that.
Oh, he's okay with putting those people in jail?
Yes, if you're using your political platform to say call for the death of your political opponents, maybe you shouldn't be in politics. Maybe you need to get into jail for a little bit. Like, that's what he's saying. For fuck's sake, have more memory than a goldfish, please.
I think that's acceptable. To me, that's a fair line. We have to understand we're playing for the highest stakes here, you know? Once the Nazis take power, that's it, you know?
Yeah. Once the Nazis take power, that's it. This fear of the boogeyman is so real in his mind.
Yeah, I wonder why. It's almost like 6 million people died because of it.
I don't know where he gets it from.
The Holocaust.
Like, I would love to ask him, what's the probability that Nazism will take over the United States in the next 100 years?
40%-ish.
I think people like him put it at, I'm just going to guess, maybe 20, 30, 40%.
And no, I haven't watched this part before. We're way past where I've watched already.
Whereas I would put it at 0.2, 0.3, 0.4%.
They stormed the Capitol with the intent of killing the vice president, who was on their side up until he said that an election wasn't stolen. Really, dude?
Like, am I wrong?
Yes.
For people who know Vaush, like, where would he put it?
No. Wait, no hate speech laws for real? Yeah, for real. We already have laws for incitement to violence. We already have laws for death threats and what have you. I haven't seen any evidence to indicate that hate speech laws like meaningfully reduce bigotry in a society. So I'm not in favor of them. And also, I'm just
I agree with him here too. I think if someone kills you because they hate you, it doesn't matter if they hate you because you're black or they hate you because you're ugly or they hate you because you're fat or whatever. It's the same crime. They killed you.
uncomfortable with the government getting to arrest you for this stuff. I'm talking about you not being able to run while being openly anti-democracy, openly fascistic, and it's okay if Twitter bans you for it. That's fine.
Agreed.
I'm okay with it. A-okay.
Yep. Agreed.
What about lock?
When was this? 2 weeks ago? I don't know. It was published 2 weeks ago, but I don't know if this is post Elon or pre Elon.
Locking someone up if they don't like Outer Wilds? Well, obviously, I am okay with locking people up if they disagree with me. What about hate crimes in general?
Sarcasm, right?
A hate crime is just a term for an existing crime that is modified by the charge that it was motivated by hatred or by like racial or demographic bias.
Andre Henry asks, Pinecreek, should the U.S. be allowed to allow the creation of a slavery party? Sure. Let's see how many votes they get.
What? Really, you think that it is okay? Let's hear him out. Let's hear him out.
Do you think they're going to get a lot of votes?
What happens if they do?
I don't.
What happens if they are allowed to exist? What happens if that ideology is allowed to spread and grow over time? Are you okay with condemning who knows how many people to slavery just because you wanted to allow a free idea that is already been removed from our society and is agreed right now to be bad and is in fact, like, just by using logic, immoral? Oh, right, sorry, I don't think he believes in harm.
How many votes do you think they'll get, Andre?
How big's the Republican Party?
Voting population. How many votes do you think a slavery party will get?
Depends on who you think the slaves are going to be.
Let's actually have a debate. Let's allow them to have their own party, and then let's put it to debate and broadcast it nationally. That'd be fun.
Fun for you. Meanwhile, the people who are disenfranchised and in areas where these people live are probably likely at honest to God fuck off danger from this. For instance, I think it's Stone Mountain. Is that the place in Georgia? Yeah, Stone Mountain, Georgia. For those of you who don't know, I had friends who lived nearby here at one point. They've since moved away, luckily. Stone Mountain, you don't go there if you're black after dark, because the KKK will kill you, because they come over here all the fucking time. And in case you're wondering what that's carved in to that mountain, those are Confederate leaders. Like, where is the mountain itself? Come on. Stone Mountain. Geography. Stone Mountain. Come on, guys. known for yeah, what is the relief? Okay, here it is. Depicting Civil War generals Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee, and President Jefferson Davis. So, this relief that is carved into this mountain and has not been removed yet is of 3 Confederate generals and the President of the Confederacy, which was started and fought for the utilization of human lives as slaves for the production and enrichment of their society. Not the people, because you may know that there was a lot of poor people in the South during this time. It wasn't a whole lot of rich people. It was the bourgeoisie that was attempting to keep a class of people as lower than workers. They were attempting to maintain a horrible, awful, no good institution of slavery. And instead of the society that lost erasing this at any point, or letting somebody know that this is bad, or, I don't know, not defacing a fucking piece of really cool geography and giving an icon for an idea that now we see a couple hundred years later has a pretty big resurgence, and an idea that led to so much material harm still be glorified, and not just glorified in it's been there, but some of this looks like it's been cleaned in the past few years. There's an entire park dedicated to it with huge visible areas to go see it. Look at this. There's somebody fucking like restoring this. This should be left alone in the same way we like don't care whether or not a Nazi swastika on the side of a building got blown up after World War II.
Or do you actually think the Slavery Party will make some good points, and that's why you're scared?
I'm not scared because I think they'll make good points. I'm scared because I think that they will allow
like its own type of crime. It's a crime that
I don't think they're. I'm not scared because I think they'll make a good point. I'm scared because I think that allowing that type of ideology to exist and manifest and have validation gives credence to those ideas. When we as a society have agreed that something is that bad, like slavery, like Nazism, like genocide, like indentured servitude, etc., etc., we should be able to leave that on the wayside of history, learn from it, and not give it credence in our society. I don't think there will ever be a time in the future where slavery can be justified. It's just not a thing that can happen.
that already exists that you're doing as a product of that kind of demographic bias. I'm okay with that. The point of arresting and imprisoning people or whatever in an ideal system is rehabilitation. And
Sure.
I think people who kill or who rape or who harass or who deface or whatever as a product of racial hatred or whatever are further from being rehabilitated than people who do it for other reasons.
False. Wrong.
Fuck you.
I'd like to see. I bet you he has zero evidence for this.
Really? You think he
I
has
bet
zero
you he has
evidence
zero
on
evidence.
rehabilitative justice or punitive justice?
In fact, I would say the opposite's true. I would say that it's far easier to rehabilitate people based on racial divides than, let's say, I don't know, power divides or envy divides or coveting divides or whatever.
Weirdly religious language coming from an atheist.
How do I know this? Well, look at our history. and
Ah, yes, history, where the struggles of class and the struggles of power dynamics have often been solved, where race has not.
Um, I know this is
Or are both problems.
anecdotal, but my dad didn't approve of my wife when we got engaged.
Who gives a fuck?
He said, if you marry this woman, I will disown you.
I don't care.
And he was rehabilitated within months.
Yeah, weird that your dad's biological innate desire to love you, that is evolutionarily programmed into him and societally reinforced, was able to overcome a slight bias against, I don't even know who your wife is. I don't really care. Weird. It's almost like the best way to rehabilitate people out of bad ideas is to talk to them one on one and make sure that they know and understand things that are personal to them. I think it was John McCain's daughter came out as a lesbian, and all of a sudden he like did a 180-degree flip on gay issues or something like that. Anyways, when it comes to interpersonal issues like that, it's very relatively easy, assuming you have a personal connection, to be changed on your ideas, um, especially when they're in the right, like when it's talking about who you should marry.
Look at Daryl Davis, a black African American who is friends.
Holy shit, he's a black African American? Oh boy, I was afraid he'd be purple.
Yes, friends with members of the KKK.
Yeah, was that the Rainbow Coalition guy? I forget. Who did he say about?
Friends, a black African. Look at Daryl Davis, a black African American who is friends. Yes, friends with members of the KKK.
Yeah, this is the guy who deconverts like KKK members, right? It wasn't Rainbow Coalition. Sorry, that was brain being dumb. Yeah, this is the guy who becomes friends with KKK members and then like drags them kicking and screaming out of the fucking KKK. Yeah, that's why are you using this guy as an example against rehabilitation? This guy is a fucking pinnacle of rehabilitation. And he's not making it easy. Like the thing is he's probably meeting with members of the KKK who aren't going out and killing black people for being black. Because if he was, he'd probably be dead.
It's, you know how easy it is to rehabilitate based on racial divides? Get to know people of different races. All you have to
Wow.
do is play poker with them.
Yeah. It's almost like if we lived in a homogenous society that didn't differentiate, that didn't have systemic issues that sidelined people and split them up into little boxes, we would be able to have a more homogenous society with less hatred. Weird.
Go fishing with them. Find someone who's a different skin shade as you and go fishing. Go golfing. Go, hey, nice putt.
Now, golf is
Right away,
golf should be illegal.
barriers break down very
Golf should be illegal and only be allowed to be played virtually. Golf is an aberration and a sin against humankind.
quickly once you actually
Scottish people, I don't hold you personally responsible for the invention of golf, though you are slightly culpable.
interact and make friends.
Love you, Scots.
Speaking, I think that people who act on who commit hate crimes are acting on like a higher and worse level of social maladjustment. So in that
Yeah,
respect,
that I disagree with. I think that's only true if you keep yourself in a very tight bubble, which is, my guess is what he's saying here is that if you hate certain races, you're going to keep yourself in a bubble. but it's really hard to live in a bubble in today's society.
It's really not. It's really easy to live in a bubble in today's society. In fact, there are arguments I've seen that I lend some credence to, that it's actually easier to be in a bubble nowadays than it was 20, 30 years ago. Maybe there's a bit of a pendulum effect on bubbleage here, but like the ability to seek out communities that wholly agree with you and stay within those communities and leave anytime you want, or have moderation against people with disagreements, can actually be is actually a problem in society today. I don't think it's a pretty big one, but it is certainly able to stay in your own little echo chamber. I mean, that's what the fucking big problems with like Facebook are, right? It's a bunch of like insular communities, and it's one of the reasons the anti-vax community is so strong. It's because they ban anyone in their society, in their spaces, who are not on board, and so you don't get voices of disagreement in these communities. You just get a growing number of people who agree, and when you join one of these things saying, oh, maybe I have a doubt. I kind of felt bad after I got my first dose of the vaccine. Wonder why that is. And you get into an anti-vax group or a vaccine skeptical group, and suddenly, instead of learning that it was your body's immune system learning how to fight the virus, it's because of like thiosulfide mercury or whatever in your blood, and it's killing you slowly, and that you're going to die from blood clots going to your brain or shit. And it's all bullshit. But when you join a community of like, oh hey, I had this problem with the vaccine, and then every single person in that community tells you that you're going to be like dead, or it was like the Jews, or like the big government trying to do a depopulation plan, suddenly you get sucked in. And if you stay in that group long enough and talk to people, and everybody's affirming the viewpoint that it's bad, like, it's really easy to get sucked in and go along with that, guys. I mean, for fuck's sake, I used to be a lizard person believing far right-wing nutbag when I was in high school, and god, now I'm not. But it was because of how I grew up and what I was listening to and who I was talking to in my life, and just like everything like that. It's all based on material conditions. And to refer to someone I respect greatly when it comes to thoughts about this, moral luck. That's like Nagel and Aaron Pinecreek here had Aaron Rabinowitz. I think he's damn near a PhD in moral philosophy. He teaches at Rutgers. Super smart guy. Y'all should listen to him. Yeah, I forgot where I was going. My brain kind of tapered off there.
With the internet, it's like you can be talking with someone on the internet, and you don't know what they look like, and then if you actually Zoom with them or meet them in real life, oh, you're a black female. I thought you were a white old man. It's like, huh, interesting.
But a boomer
Do you think
technology
it's possible to
thing.
legislate against stochastic violence? It's very difficult. Very, very difficult.
It is. It's difficult.
Isn't forcing Nazis to go underground deplatforming? I love deplatforming. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Let's do it.
At no point in human history have we ever had a platform that people just got to keep no matter what. Like any ability you had to speak to the public at any point in time was motivated by your ability to navigate the rules set for you within that platform. The concept
of like, and the rules set for us in the United States Constitution is not deplatforming unless it's very extreme.
So this is probably a fundamental misunderstanding of how the Constitution actually works to protect free speech, that Doug here from Pinecreek doesn't understand, because he's not an American. He's not a Native American. He's a recently nationalized American. The First Amendment only protects you from the government infringing your speech. The government cannot get in the way of your speech. That's what the First Amendment says. It does not stop private people from stopping you being able to talk in areas. So again, like on Facebook or on Twitter or Reddit or YouTube, those companies are allowed to take your platform away from you if you break the terms and conditions set by those platforms. It's the same as in like a theater. You go to a theater, you stand up on stage, and you're doing stand up comedy, and people hate you enough that the security guard comes up and asks you to leave. Like, fucking, that is just how society is. Now, if you want a society where nobody can stop you from saying something or doing free speech in any way, shape, and or form, I think you'll have a society that, well, you rapidly have to reinitialize those laws. Let's just say that. Because I imagine that you would get a lot of people who would start abusing that system of being able to say whatever they want, whenever they want, and however they want, wherever they want. I think you get a system where we've already seen this happen with all of the people who refused to wear masks in stores during the height of the pandemic. And like, it's not against free speech for a store to say you have to wear a mask. That's just the store modifying their terms and conditions for public health. That's all that was.
Which does get complicated. But so far in the United States of America, we have rules and laws that says if someone wants to create a Nazi party and run, they can. Right? Is there anything in the Constitution that says you can't form a Nazi party?
No, they already have
Good
one.
luck getting votes in the United States. Well, I mean, significant votes.
So, a little bit of a history lesson for y'all. The Silver Legion of America, commonly known as the Silver Shirts, founded in 1933. They were a party. They were a far-right Christian party in 1930s America. The American Nazi Party, founded in 1959, right after World War II. That's right. There was a Nazi Party, 59, less than 10 years after we killed Hitler. You know, just the happy little things. All these guys have been beaten down. Yep, we just saw those guys. The National Resistance Party, founded in 49 again. National Socialist League, 74. National Socialist Movement, 74. The National Socialist Party of America, 70. These ideas have been around for a long time, guys. They've never gone away. They've always been there. What was it? There was a big white supremacist rally, 1930s. The Unite the Right? No, that wasn't it. This one. Yeah, there we go. This was it the Pro America rally? Yeah. Go to hell. So yeah, was the let's do Pro America rally. 1939. Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden. Let's see, the rally itself was run by Bund. Shortly after rally, Bund declined rapidly and looked like he died or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you look at, let's try and find a picture. The picture I was thinking of, it's the one I showed already. This one. Can I get a better one? I wish I could see what those signs said better. Stop Jewish Domination of Christian America. 1930s, guys. 1930s was a great time in American history. We all love it. I mean, look at all these fucking people, right? All of these people, probably, at least some of them, probably didn't go in to fight World War II, right? I mean, like most of these folks wouldn't have gone and fought in Germany unless they had to by a draft. So, most of these people probably lived out their lives, took these ideas, taught them to their kids. What's the average birth rate in America? 2 kids per person? You do the math.
Hands-off, context-free ability to broadcast your info to millions.
Oh, Germania. Yeah, I think you're right. I think I need to change my background to red, white, and blue. The flying man needs to be red, white, and blue. I'll work on that.
Not a thing that's existed historically and not one that exists today. And it sure as shit is not going to exist if they take power, I'll tell you that much. So yeah, no, I don't care. And keep in mind, terms of service when it comes to like Twitter and what have you have nothing to do with the First Amendment. The
right.
Constitution guarantees you protection from government persecution, not from website TOSs.
I agree. Private company can make their own rules and suffer the consequences or reap the benefits by those rules. Okay, that arrive.
Okay, so his own audience thinks that like 0 to 25% primarily. Who are his viewers? Okay. Most of his viewers are leaning left right now. Okay, interesting. Climate change poll. What does this think? This one's going to be great, I'm sure. Yeah. Yes. It will be a big problem. What's this guy going to say about this?
Emotion and left are more doomsday. Why is that?
Because we understand,
right?
Yes.
Or is it because of personality traits? They're more risk adverse?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Actually, the science is in on this, I think. Let me really ruffle feathers here. I'm going to let the vote go on. Hang on, Jack. I love you, Jack. No, I don't love you. I like you, Jack, but hang on, Jack. The line and hold the line. If you lean left, just hold the line. 6-to-1 times more divided. Same type of 2/3 of you lean left. Question for you. How do I phrase this without...
Well, that's a great question. How do you phrase this?
Kill me.
Well, see, we don't believe in offensive violence, so we probably won't kill you.
There have been scientific studies on emotion and...
Oh, so he wasn't... Were you actually not going to talk about the science of climate change, but instead are going to talk about your perceived understanding of science of people who lean left? Is that what you were really about to do?
It is incorrect to say that women are more emotional than men. However, it is correct to say that women tend to be more emotional than men when it comes to bad stuff, and men tend to be more emotional than women when it comes to good stuff. Fact check me. What I just said is true.
It is only true in the society that you currently live. It is because of societal conditioning that that is the perception.
True. And we all love it. Most women lean left.
Pew Research 2020. Didn't want voter turnout. Okay. Gender gap and party identification. In women, you've got 56% going Democrat versus men who are 42. Okay, there is a slight bias there. I'm going to guess it's probably because women are conditioned in our society to be more empathetic, and empathy correlates with, you know, democracy, democratic values, liberal values, leftist values are correlated with empathy.
Most women lean left in the United States.
Most is incorrect, slightly over half.
Most women tend to be more emotional on bad stuff.
Again, this is just him fucking.
Because most women in here.
Stop talking about women.
Isn't this interesting?
Climate change, you idiot.
Five times more likely to say it's a major problem. 2 times more likely to say it's not if you lean right.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because you guys don't understand how fucking science works.
Start doing new here because it probably
popped in.
Jack off
Just
on?
Okay, for fuck's sake. Is there anything unemployed comedian, whatever? Okay, I'm done with this. He's done. I'm done with him. He's done. We're all done. Let's look at a kitten. We're going to look at a kitten, guys. All right, folks. All right, kids. We're looking at kitten. I want a good kitten. Oh, this is a good kitten. This is a wild hair, kind of a scrungly but cute in a scrappy kind of way. This kitten will grow up to be majestic. That's what I'm saying. Look at this kitten. This kitten is calming. I am calm. Ooh, that was a long one, guys. I appreciate you sticking.